Good evening and welcome to the Neighborhood Center. I'm Vicki Anderson, Executive Director at the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center. My guest this evening is Elizabeth Wood, who is Executive Director of the Stonington Historical Society. Welcome, Liz.
Well, thank you, Vicki. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you could make it. And we're talking tonight about a collaboration that our two organizations have, and that's to capture the history of Stonington seniors, born and raised in...
Not even necessarily born, but raised. Anyone who has memories of growing up in Pawcatuck or Stonington, I was interested in speaking to. And especially, I mean, the seniors at the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center, because you have an audience already there.
We do. We have a senior center, and so it's a logical place to seek out seniors. So we have people who come to lunch, and we have people who are involved in activities, and so many of them are from Stonington.
Right. No, a lot of residents of Pawcatuck actually grew up in Stonington Borough, so that's part of the population. But a lot of families in Pawcatuck, we find we don't have a lot of stories at the Historical Society that represent Pawcatuck.
Is that right?
Because I think a lot of it is not written down, and so our archives are mostly diaries and business papers and things like that. So it was reaching a different population. Yeah. So both historically and presently too, the people in Pawcatuck. So it's important to me to reach out across our community. So
when I came to the Neighborhood Center and learned more, I really didn't know a lot about Pawcatuck at all, and then I learned it was a mill town, and you know, obviously the river's there, and wherever there's a river in New England, there's a mill.
Right.
And it was fascinating to me as time went on to learn more and more about the history of it. And years ago I used to work at Mystic Seaport, and I have a love of history.
Perfect.
And I just wanted to know more and more about it. And when you approached about this project, I was very excited.
Well, and the mills too bring in, it's a lot of immigrant populations who English is not their first language necessarily, so there's not a lot of written history either. So interviewing these seniors gives us a perspective that isn't really represented anywhere else. So it's very valuable, I think, to have oral histories.
It is, and for many, I mean, there are many generations of seniors that you'll be able to talk with, but for many seniors, yesterday is the most vivid thing in the person's memory. What happened yesterday or in the morning, it isn't as clear, but
well, but there's all sorts of ways to trigger memories, I think. And we've asked them to bring in photographs, and we're going to have a scanner on site to scan them as well. And then if they look at the photograph, then it will trigger memories for them as children. Food triggers memories too. Asking people about what sorts of things they ate as children. So all sorts of different things to make people sort of remember. So. No, and I've interviewed 3 people so far, and they've been fascinating stories. Things you would never know if you didn't ask.
Yes. Yeah, you look out at a room full of people, and there are just a million stories.
Sure.
There.
Well, the last time I was there, I interviewed a gentleman who grew up above Frankie Keene's new shop on Water Street in Stonington Borough.
Oh, really?
But he talked about his family and living there. He talked about Frankie Keene, who's been dead a while now, and his dog, and his mother, and he also talked about that he lost a son on a fishing boat.
Oh my!
So yeah, it was all part of his story, and it was good for him to tell it too. So.
The ebb and flow of the town, the whole fishing part of Stonington Borough it's incredible.
No,
it really is.
Yeah, no, and it's still present today. So
yes,
some of the same families even.
Same families. The occupation of the fishermen. That it's a dangerous profession.
Terribly dangerous. Yep. Even with all the tools they have today, still dangerous. So but lots of lives lost.
And it's such hard work, and needing to know, you need to know beyond the instruments. The instruments help
Sure.
a lot, but
Yep.
to know what the sky is telling you and what the waves are telling you, and get home safely. And from so many of our fishermen, that didn't happen, and
Sure.
and the families had to carry on. And
Right. Well, and it's such a tentative occupation because you don't know what you're going to catch that day either, or whether you'll be physically able to fish next year. So yeah, no, it is. It's a very moving story, compelling, I think. So, no, a lot of our history is about people's jobs,
Yeah.
mills and fishing and things like that. So,
what other stories have you? I mean, have you, beyond coming to the neighborhood center, have you been collecting stories? Has the Historical Society been collecting stories?
we have a small collection of oral histories in our library. Unfortunately, most of them were recorded on cassette tapes. Which is
Yeah.
they're fragile
They
over
are,
time,
yeah.
and it's expensive to transfer them to more lasting means. So it's something we'll look at in the future. There is also the very act of transcribing those cassette tapes can be very labor intensive as well. So we do
I hadn't thought about that.
yeah, we do have a small collection, but it's not so readily accessible as the written things we have. So, but it's something we would love to do moving forward. So,
Right.
because those are histories that were not written down. So, yeah, it's important to have that perspective.
And do people bring in photographs of? I mean, that's what I remember seeing. You know, if you buy those little history books of each of the towns.
Yes.
You know, Groton and all the towns, and to be able to see those is.
Yeah, no, it is wonderful. So no, those are like the pictorial books. They're
Yes.
mostly they're photographs with captions. No, they are, they're wonderful. So lots of people have collections of photographs, and they bring things to our library all the time.
Good.
So wonderful things. So if I could tell your
Yes.
audience anything, label the back of your photographs, please.
Who's in
Oh,
it? Where is it?
The year.
The year.
Because we have so many photographs that are part of individual collections that we're not really sure what they're portraying. So, I mean, if it's a house or something,
Right.
we can do it. But if it's a person, we can make guesses, and sometimes other people know. But it's hard. So, yes, please
That's
label.
true. Thinking of some of my own photographs, you know,
Sure.
that I've taken. And when you take them now, unless you print them out,
Right.
and I tend not to do that as
Sure.
much.
Well, I think you should think about like what your legacy will be. For many young people, it's going to be a Facebook page.
Yes.
It really is, because that's where you collect. It's sort of like a diary where you collect your photographs,
Right.
your pictures of your friends, your activities. So, and that's, to me, that's a good thing. I mean,
Yes, it is.
because it will be there forever. But people they don't really think about what they're saving for the future.
Right.
For better or for
Yes.
worse.
Now, the 38 hurricane, does that come up frequently?
Sure. Well, we have people who still remember it. And every family, I think, in the area has a story about the 38 hurricane. So I know my husband's family talks about how their father he was in school, and he skipped school that day, so no one knew where he was.
Oh, my goodness.
But that's their story. So everyone has part of it that touched their families if they lived there then. So no, it is. And there's great photographs, too, of the
Right.
damage done. And there are even some films, I think, of the water. So,
Right.
yeah, no, disasters are definitely a big part of history.
Yes, they are.
Yep.
And this one, to this region, where, you know, you listen to the weather reports, and some are maybe seem overdone and nothing happened,
Right.
but this one just was out of the blue, and they didn't have the forecasting that we
Sure.
have now. But the rain that's been coming across the country and the floods that have been happening
Right, in Texas.
in Texas,
Yes.
in the middle, yes, in the middle of the country, have been I don't know, painful
Sure.
to watch a house fall into the water, and you've got you're watching that on the nightly news, but
Right.
but to see pictures from our region of
Right.
what happened and how shocking and
I think it was really truly devastating.
Yeah.
I mean, many lives lost and buildings damaged and things. I mean, recently we just had all that damage in Pawcatuck,
yes,
but I don't think it really compared to the '38 hurricane.
No.
So,
no,
so and who knows what the future will bring.
right,
Right.
that's right. I mean, it's every year people can say
Hurricane season is
Hur-
coming.
hurricane.
Sure.
I mean, they announce it on TV, and I can remember. Well, he's passed away now. Don Truigy from
Oh,
from
sure.
Mystic Seaport came over to the neighborhood center one time and showed a slideshow of the '38 hurricane,
Okay.
and that sparked a lot of talk in the room.
Oh, sure. Uh-huh.
You know, I remember this. I remember that corner. I remember,
Right.
places that don't exist anymore.
Right.
Buildings that don't exist
Sure.
anymore.
And that's a big event that will trigger people's memories too.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So,
And you look at downtown Mystic and what it looks like today as compared to what it looked like not that long ago, really. 30
No.
years ago.
right.
And a lot has changed.
They've had a couple of big fires in downtown
Yes.
Mystic, I think, that have changed the landscape. So, but it's always changing, and it's interesting the things that are left behind, that are just sort of part of the cultural landscape now, like stone walls that travel through the
Yes.
woods,
Yep.
are so evocative. That they used to be farm fields, so it's everywhere.
It's
So,
everywhere.
Yep.
Beautiful, beautiful. For Stonington, well, Pawcatuck and Stonington, going to school and how people got to school.
Sure.
I mean, that was a whole
Transportation.
Transportation.
Yep, definitely. Well, there used to be a trolley that ran from Stonington to Pawcatuck, and a trolley that went from Pawcatuck to Norwich and back. So
I wish we still had
wouldn't
that.
it be wonderful? I agree. No, you could just hop on it. So
Right.
went right up Elm Street in Stonington. So no, that would be great. But yeah, I don't think labor's not as inexpensive as it once was.
No, it isn't.
So,
No, but transportation is an issue. It's a difficult
sure.
for many people, and the trolley was great.
Right.
So to get to school, were there school buses at certain points in time, or did people
People took the trolley, I
they
think.
took the
Yep.
trolley? And
Well, we had a lot more schools too, though. I mean, we had
did.
schoolhouses. I think maybe I don't even know how many school districts we had,
Oh,
but
really?
each neighborhood would have had its own school until into the 20th century, I think, when they built the main schools, like the Borough School and Stonington High School, or Pawcatuck Middle School used to be a high school. So, but yeah, so it was easier, but it was still, yeah.
yeah, I can remember my mother saying that when she grew up, her dad was a butcher in town, and they had a kind of a horse-drawn carriage of some sort, and that's how she got to school.
Okay.
I told her she was spoiled, and she said she says, I know.
Sure. Well, because he had to go out every morning, I'm sure.
Yeah, somebody had to,
Yeah, that's great. Yep. So,
But-
did you grow up around here?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
No, I didn't, and
Uh-huh.
neither did she. But she,
Yeah.
horse-drawn carriage. And I said,
Sure.
"Oh, Mom." But it was a little carriage. But she didn't have to walk. And,
Right. So, she was lucky. Very lucky. So,
But the trolleys and and Stonington and Pawcatuck, large farming fields that really
Oh.
aren't.
definitely. No, we have very few farms left anymore. Most are north of us.
Yes.
I think so. Yeah, no, Pawcatuck was really more industrial, I think. And Stonington
Okay.
was a lot of shipping interests. So, but I think another reason Pawcatuck seems to be underrepresented in our collections anyways, because they've identified with Westerly for so long as their downtown.
Yes, that's true.
So,
And
yep.
as the neighborhood center, we serve all the residents of Westerly, and,
Right.
and sometimes getting our funders to understand that can be
Right.
a challenge.
Sure.
But it's been the downtown. It's been within walking distance
Right.
of people who who live on Mechanic Street, River Road, and Liberty Street, and
Sure.
the whole
Yep.
neighborhood there.
No.
And
Well, it's their neighborhood.
it's their
exactly.
neighborhood, and you cross the bridge, and it's no big deal.
I interviewed a woman who grew up in Lower Pawcatuck off of Mechanic Street, who said it was much easier to get to Norwich than it was to get to Mystic at some points, because you could get on the trolley that was heading up what we call Route 2 now. So, but she had some great memories of Pawcatuck.
Yeah.
And her father worked in the mills, and her husband worked in the mills, and her brothers worked in the mills. But they talked about how it was a very English immigrant community, and it was a fish and chip shop on every block.
On every block.
Which you wouldn't think about that Pawcatuck that way.
No.
But yeah, no, they recruited lots of British mill workers to work the textile mills.
Oh, they were textile mills.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. So mills that I made cloth, I imagine. So.
Because I know some of them made rope or
Sure.
some things like that. But textile mills. That's
Yeah, what New England is famous for are
Yes.
textile mills. So.
the other. Well, I think women too. Where their outlets were outside of the home, generally the church,
Sure.
church, and I know St. Michael's, St. Michael Church played
Right.
kind of the center
Yeah.
of the town's
Sure.
religious community.
Right. Well, even the mills, though, provided community houses. The Lorraine Mills on Mechanic Street had a community house.
Really?
And they would have like family events there, picnics and things like that. So, no, social events were important, yeah, to be part of your community. That's also the place where some of those early boxing matches took place.
Yeah.
Which is also a very English sport.
Yes.
So.
How about that? Yeah, and you think of that now, how, I don't know whether it's a great deal of forethought, how visionary, but there wasn't television, there wasn't
Right.
a lot of other things, so you used your imagination and very good of the company to come up with ideas
Sure.
that provided entertainment for the family and made for maybe a happier workforce,
Right.
More cohesive
Sure.
workforce.
Well, the mills also provided the housing. A lot of the homes in Pawcatuck were built by the mills, along Mechanic Street and River Road. Quite a few of them, actually. Like the ones immediately behind the Clark Thread Mill.
Yes.
Were built by the mill company.
By the mill companies, and that too. When we think of many of the problems that, say, at the neighborhood center, some of our clients experience problems with, housing is definitely
Sure.
right up there at the top, and transportation. So here you
Sure.
had employers with jobs that people could do, also providing housing.
Right.
I mean, it was hard work, and it was maybe not the most comfortable conditions sometimes, but I mean, that was ideal
Right.
to have your employer be, well, and you'd be paying rent.
Sure. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
No, and I think there was probably the company store.
Yes, the company store.
Exactly. But they did think of all the needs of people. So no, I think you were able to live comfortably. You could feed your family.
Right.
So
That's
definitely.
That's enormous. That's enormous. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And to capture a child's memory, you're talking to somebody who's older, 70s, 80s, 90s, but you're talking to the child who
Right.
remembers what
Sure.
it was like to grow up, maybe living in the mill house, and what it was like, what was served for dinner on the table.
Sure. The things that matter to kids. Right. So
Yeah.
and in sort of uncovering these memories, you can learn about different things. Like church is another important one too. Like where you went to church and what you remember about that, and who your friends were, and siblings, and who were your siblings' friends.
Yeah.
So no, lots of fun things to talk about, I think, and things that we don't normally ask about.
Right.
So, but there's important history there too.
Right. And it's something I wouldn't normally get into a conversation with in any depth with somebody
Sure.
at the neighborhood center about, you know, where were you born, where did you grow up, what was it like? So to be able to have you come in and focus on that, and it's part of an important project.
Right. It is.
And
So the
it's-
greater project,
Yes.
growing up in Stonington, we see not only just taking the oral histories, but I can see some public programs. We're talking about perhaps having a panel discussion with some people who grew up in Pawcatuck and Stonington, share their memories, and then hopefully have a greater discussion among the audience as well. So it's part of recognizing the history that's right immediately around us, so that we don't really think about too often. We think about the greater national and international things happening, but there's important things, and it all has an impact locally as well.
Right.
So, but I see an exhibit probably from this that we could pursue. So, no, lots of great things can come
Right.
of this, and conversations.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And how did, when you look at the Pawcatuck and Stonington Borough and development, like a planning and zoning committee, and what went into deciding what went where and what
Sure.
they were going to do then,
Right.
when we look back and listen to, if we, you know, get some ideas from how people perceived their community growing, and then how we're looking at how do we best utilize, say, West Broad Street School now
Sure.
in Pawcatuck? How do we best utilize some of these other
Yeah.
things? But knowing the history too behind it, I think brings a layer of importance to the decisions that should
Sure.
be made about some of these things.
Sure. Well, planning and zoning is a relatively recent thing.
It
I
is
think
very,
the
yes.
community grew up organically, and where you needed a school, they put a school, and
just put a school.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
and a lot of people walked to work or took the trolley. So yeah, so that's new. But it is, the buildings in your town are really artifacts.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
And they tell a story that that maybe you don't know, but we can find out certainly. So,
Yeah,
no, the historical. I mean, that's what we do. We tell stories.
right,
So, yep. So of people, of places, of events.
right. Yeah. And because of it being a shipping, well, we're on the water. So
Right.
anything to do with boats and everything, and so the world came to Stonington Borough via boats, and we learned about
Sure.
other countries and other people, and they came ashore.
Right.
And
That's an interesting point.
and others, some stayed, some didn't,
Right.
and then some people, you know, got bit by the bug and had to get on a ship and sail, you know,
Sure.
sail. I've got to
Right.
see the world, you know.
I think it was easy to get on a ship and sail, though. I mean, they were always looking for labor, so you could do that.
And now you have to go through layers and
I
layers
know.
of whatever, you know, and to just hop on a ship and
Sure.
you know,
But
put up
they
your
were-
hand.
They were skills that almost everybody had. You know, that you had some sort of nautical background growing up in Pawcatuck or Stonington, so
Right.
it was accessible to you, I think. So
Yes.
not so much today.
Right.
So you need to be trained.
Yes. We're not just going to throw you on the ship.
Sure.
No, you played in the water, but I think you less play and more work, perhaps. And,
Sure.
But picnics by the water. I mean,
Yep.
I can remember looking at photographs of these beautiful picnics and
Right.
people dressing for the picnics.
Sure. No, I think it was really very much an event
A big deal.
to go out into the woods for the day and right. So and take
Yeah.
photographs. So
Yeah.
we still do that today, I think.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
to the beach or
To the beach, yeah, off to the beach, and we're much more casual. But
yes.
yeah, but to see people, you know, dressed up and doing that.
Right. Well, I think it's so much easier for us. We can jump in our car.
Right.
Yeah. So, and food is much more accessible too. Like to take food with you, you'd have to spend a good amount of time preparing. So
That's true. Yep.
So, but yeah, no, it does look like fun.
Well, this is a wonderful project, and it's going to be. It doesn't have an end.
No, it doesn't. No, ongoing.
Yeah.
So, no, I see lots of different variations of it,
Yeah.
And different audiences to reach. So we will keep moving forward. So.
Wonderful. Wonderful, Liz.
Yep.
Well, it's the end of June. Now, the Historical Society does oversee a number of events in the town.
We do. Our next event is the 4th of July parade that happens in Stonington Borough, where they march, they gather at the corner of Wattawannock Square, and they march to Cannon Square and then back to Wattawannock Square. And they will recite the Declaration of Independence, and they will sing the national anthem, and they will also cast a pox upon King George. So it's a beautiful little community event. So after that, the next day we actually have a concert on the Lighthouse lawn with Saltmarsh Opera, and they'll be doing a mix of opera and Broadway tunes. And then in October we have a house tour.
And a house tour.
A house tour. So we're doing a walking tour of Stonington Borough that will have at least 7 homes on it. So that's on October 17th. Yeah.
Okay.
No, beautiful.
Well, thank you for being on the Neighborhood Center tonight, and thank you for doing this wonderful project.
Well, my pleasure.
Yeah, this is great.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Liz. And thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on the Neighborhood Center.